Just gone 20 minutes to 9 as we continue with news and views this morning. And the focus now shifts to the BRICS summit and unpacking and analyzing. Yesterday was day two, today being the final day at the BRICS summit. And we are now joined by Professor Thabo Mbeki, African School of Public and International Affairs. We are joined by Professor Anthony van Nieuwkerk. Professor Anthony, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning. Salam.
Yes, wonderful that you're able to join us now. Obviously, day two yesterday and today with the wrapping up of the summit. We know that there has been a lot that has been playing out in the sidelines, cooperation between the countries, talking about technology, enhancing skills, training, education, all of that. But some of the key issues that have been dominating the summit has been the expansion of BRICS, which is the one, and the whole question surrounding de-dollarization.
Yeah. You want me to respond to those two?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think there are more issues, but those two are quite important. I think we can put de-dollarization to rest fairly quickly, because that was never really going to be a key issue or an outcome of this summit. It's a conversation that has been around for a long time. The BRICS summit has highlighted or given this issue of de-dollarization more attention, and beyond the summit, it'll continue to be an issue, which is, in a nutshell, really, that the world economy is dominated by the one superpower, the hegemon, the United States of America, and its economic and political and military system, and it exerts undue influence over global trade, and has made, through force of power and persuasion, the dollar as the preferred denomination for international trade transactions. Countries who do not necessarily subscribe to the American way of life, particularly those in the global south, who are often recipients and not beneficiaries of this global system, which benefits the West, of course, Europe and America, North America, are saying, why is it that there is this pressure for us to trade with our neighbors, say in Southeast Asia or in East Africa or in South America, with the dollar? What makes the dollar better than our own currency? And so the idea that is beginning to shape up and accelerated by the BRICS, especially if it gets enlarged in coming months, is countries in a particular region would be welcome to trade in their own currency. And in fact, in Southern Africa, we do that already. We have a customs union to which 5 countries belong, South Africa and its neighbors. We trade in rand, but also in their own currencies, but rand is the preferred choice. So this logic might apply to other regions going forward. Whether the world comes to a point where everybody agrees that the dollar needs to be replaced by the Chinese renminbi or another country's currency is far into the future, because underlying, such a powerful move would be a financial infrastructure that would give life to the value of such a currency. International institutions, World Bank, IMF, development banks, etc., etc. And that is not yet in place. I mean, the dollar is really in terms of global politics, the dollar is king and won't disappear very quick.
Yes, very interesting. Okay, continue, Prof.
Let me come to the other question quickly. You were asking about expansion. That is the more interesting one, who's going to join and on what basis? And I must say that we're speaking live now, but in the next couple of hours, there will be a BRICS summit outcome document, sort of a communique, a statement that will be given later today. And as part of that, our foreign minister, Naledi Pandor, said that there's an agreement, there's an approach, there's a document, there's a set of rules that the BRICS alliance partners, the 5 of them, have developed, according to which new members can join. Like yourself and your listeners, I'm very keen to hear what the criteria are and the priority countries that are lining up to join. So we're speculating a little bit this morning, but it's quite clear to me that in terms of let's be frank, this is not as if France is going to join BRICS or any member of the global north. They have their own systems of global governance, which they are jealously guarding against the encroaching power and influence of an enlarged BRICS. BRICS will benefit, in my view, from countries in the global south that play important regional roles. For example, Nigeria in West Africa, Algeria or Egypt in North Africa, Saudi Arabia and or Iran in the Arab world. There might be others in the Middle East. There might be others in Asia, such as Indonesia, who would claim, to have a contribution to make to BRICS. I think this is going to happen in this way that I'm speaking. Not fast. It'll take a bit of time. And in admitting new members who are powerful in their own regional right, and by the way, it seems to me that the hidden criteria, the secret to the recipe is if you have oil and gas, if you are strong in natural resources, then we'll come and talk business with us. Because BRICS, in the first instance, in my view, is a group of countries that are looking out for their economic interests. They are forced onto the political stage because now we see that the hegemony of America and the West is beginning to wane. They're in deep trouble economically and politically and ideologically, and we see the rise of the East. And so BRICS is beginning to play that more important role. If you add those names to the mix, so BRICS Plus, the way that I speak, it's no doubt in my mind that BRICS will become an important global player.
Well, certainly, and I think obviously this has been reinforced by a statement made by the Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying that BRICS should become a trading bloc representing global majority. And when one just looks at the five BRICS member countries right now, in terms of who they represent, in terms of the numbers that they represent alone, and with the expansion BRICS Plus, this is huge. This is massive, Prof.
Yeah, no, indeed. Somebody else made the comment earlier today, maybe tongue in cheek, that in BRICS already you have the world's biggest democracy, over 1 billion people. That's India, and the world's biggest autocracy, which is the PRC or China. I mean, there's a bit of a debate, for us how to understand the political and economic system of China. I think it's a kind of an authoritarian capitalism. I don't think it's communism or socialism. And there's no doubt in my mind that China is the mover and the leader behind BRICS. China makes up about 70% of everything that BRICS is or wants to be or wants to go to. And make no mistake, when you listen to President Xi Jinping in his presentations over the last 2 or 3 days, like President Putin and Lavrov, his representative, they're aggressive. And they're not holding back. They want BRICS to be a counterpoint to the aggressive foreign policy and international relations of the West, as it is being led by America. And so there's a tension, there's a debate. I wonder if I can put it like this, which is not yet resolved, because President Ramaphosa doesn't fall into this school of pushing BRICS aggressively as a counterpoint to the global dominance of the West. 2 weeks ago, at the eve of the BRICS summit in Sandton, he spoke to the nation, and for the first time, as I can recall, he gave a sort of a foreign policy and international relations speech or a lecture or a presentation of where he and his government stands. When you take that as the cue of our foreign policy direction, it is not to participate in a political process whereby we set ourselves up as an alternative to global governance and domination by the West. In fact, what President Ramaphosa said was that South Africa and BRICS needs to participate in a more open or a more inclusive rules-based international order. This is the kind of Western language that he is using. This is not the language that Putin uses or Xi Jinping. They see it differently. And let me add why this is attention. The other very important BRICS player is India. India's foreign policy is hard to understand. It is comfortable talking to the West and to America, but also to the East. It is a key member of BRICS, but it's quick to trade with America and to tolerate American influence. It is also a very important player in Asia. It has nuclear power. It is a large economy. In fact, Narendra Modi said in his presentation to the BRICS summit, he upstaged Xi Jinping by saying that the future of BRICS and the global South is with India. India is the country that is going to produce technology, innovation, and growth. And so the future growth, engine of growth, lies with India. And lo and behold, he had hardly said these words when the Indian Space Agency succeeded in landing one of their craft on the moon. That happened last night. It's to underscore, as it were, in terms of diplomacy, soft power, and influence, the kind of role that India wants to play. It's quite tragic, isn't it, that the Russian attempt to land a craft on the moon just failed miserably. And this morning's news about Prigozhin having been shot down in his airplane,
Yes,
underscores, the fact that Russia is on the back foot. Putin is on TV like I'm talking to you. There's no in-person sort of dynamic that allows Russia to take a step forward. I think they're on the back foot. China's on the front foot. India is trying to become the leader, but it isn't. And South Africa is happy to host. We don't have another position. If we can benefit on behalf of Africa, then it's good.
well, in fact, this was the issue I was going to say. What is it in for South Africa, and particularly, you've summarized it so well. The aggression of the Russian and the Chinese, India basically swinging both ways to see where there is benefit, and we've got this non-aligned position. Now we've got all these divergent views coming through with regard to all these member states, and with an expanded BRICS. Again, it's just to see what is a position and where do all these other countries who are intending to join the BRICS membership, all of them, where they're going to be standing. And again, I suppose you've got America, you've got Europe, Western Europe, sitting on the sidelines watching what is unfolding. So these are very, very interesting dynamics that are playing out, bro.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're quite right. What is in it for South Africa is a very pertinent question. Apart from hosting fairly successfully the BRICS summit, it seems to me, as a divided nation, we come together when we have to produce something that's bigger than any of us. So if it's a World Cup or a UN summit or a BRICS summit, then we play by the rules, and we are very supportive of each other. It went fairly well. I didn't see many glitches. There were one or two sort of small diplomatic incidents. It's not even worth mentioning. So there's an immediate, benefit that South Africa can come together and host and play on the world stage. And Cyril Ramaphosa has that demeanor and that style and the mannerism to be a sort of a cool and collected chair of a session. He does well. As long as he and his government do not forget that they are supposed to represent the interests of the rest of Africa. And so whatever South Africa wants to get out of BRICS, it has to understand that it must be in collaboration or in consultation with its brothers and sisters on the continent. Because without that, South Africa is too small and too lonely to play any significant role in an enlarged BRICS. So that is the lesson that we cannot forget. In fact, if I can say on a lighter note, when it comes to BRICS expansion, why apparently the president of Malawi arrived as a bystander, as a member in the audience, so to speak, and he said, why can't I also apply to become a member of BRICS? What is wrong with me? So South Africa has the moral obligation but also the self-interest to make sure that politically and economically and in trade terms, all of these agreements that are being forged over the next or during the summit will also be to the benefit of Africa. What I think BRICS shouldn't do, and it'll fall apart if it tries to, is to say that we are politically and ideologically cohesive and we are going to challenge the might of the Americans, of the West, in terms of politics, economics, diplomacy, and shaping the world order. Individually, some member states might be able to do that, and China is on the forefront. China is not shy to say that it is designing a new world order. Join us. And it has the depth to do so. But once BRICS wants to speak with one voice on matters of international importance, they might not be able to find each other. I'll give you a quick example. There are many examples. A quick one is there's a desire amongst some of us in the Global South for the Security Council to be restructured so that at least an African member state has a permanent seat, not a part-time thing, but a permanent seat with the other 5. Who is that going to be? If Nigeria joins BRICS, Nigeria will say, we are a very important country. Our economy is bigger than yours. We should be on the Security Council of the UN. There'll be a competition between South Africa and Nigeria and Algeria and Egypt to speak on behalf of the continent. It gets even more intricate, I think, when you think of the politics of the Middle East. If Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, China, India all sits in an enlarged BRICS, what kind of ideological coherence would that organization be able to find and express when it comes to tensions, for example, in Israel and Palestine? How to deal with these kinds of situations, I think would be very difficult.
Well, Prof, you know what? There is just so much more you and I can actually talk about. Unfortunately, time is of the essence, really. Now that you've taken this to another level in terms of ideologies and how these countries can basically coexist within a BRICS forum and cooperate with each other coming from different backgrounds, there's just so much more. We haven't even touched on the World Bank, the IMF, the New Development Bank. There's a lot that we need to unpack, and perhaps at some point in time, Prof, I'd like to actually hold you to a more detailed discussion. This is obviously News and Views. It's a fast-paced program, but so time is of the essence. But hopefully, at some point in time, you and I will engage a lot more. But for now, we thank you for your time.
Okay, I think eating the elephant bit by bit is maybe the way to go.
Thank you for that, Prof, and all the best to you, sir.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Bye-bye. Professor Anthony van Nieuwkerk joining us this morning, Professor at the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. And I must say, what a wonderful analysis on what has actually been playing out and what we can expect out of the BRICS Summit 2023. The time is just gone. 8:58. We're going to go for a quick break. We come back, we'll be joined by Imtiaz Sayed Etiquini Sikio.